First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, everyone here today, to have this opportunity to talk about relinquishment, which, well, relinquishment means like letting go, okay, being able to let go of or give up something. So this is kind of an extension of last week's topic, which is the middle way, but or a part of that, the Noble Eightfold Path, basically, to be able to let go. Okay, so we have to learn to be able to let go. Let's see. All right, so, oops, okay. As Buddha says, right, the root of suffering is attachment, or, we say also desire. Actually, desires come from attachments. So the attachments is very important, that we have to learn to not be attached to things, right? That's everything. All our problems come from that. So if we can take care, deal with that, eliminate that, then we're going to be, it'll be very good for us, right? Let's see. Okay, all right, so I want to take a look at this. Okay, so actually this, when we say, I want to be happy, it's a very simple sentence, okay? But actually it encapsulates a lot of the ideas in here, because what it's saying is, well, first of all, if we analyze this, it says I is the ego. Okay, that's who I think I am, this self, and then, but that's the four images. Okay, so basically, okay, so that's what the four images. We talked about last week, and I guess I've mentioned it before. Basically, it's the image of self or ego, image of person or personality, image of sentient beings, and also of the lifespan. Okay. Okay. So, and then the want, right? You can say that's a desire. Actually, I want something. That's a desire for something. Okay. So now we know that desire is a cause of suffering. Right, so right here in this sentence is kind of odd, because you say, I want to be happy, but you're not happy, and so there's a problem here. Okay, so basically, if we look at, then we look at the next two words, to be, right? That's in the future, right? That's something that hasn't happened yet. So I want to be happy, but I'm not yet happy, right? And so when we talk about the future, or the past or the present, that's talking about the three minds, right? The past, present, and future minds. And so this is very interesting. This is very kind of Zen-like, actually. Just like, what's interesting is, so I want to be, we'd say, oh, I want to be happy, so why aren't you happy? Well, this is very Zen-like. Just like the future, I guess, you can say the future second patriarch, second patriarch, Sun Guang. Okay, so he asked Bodhidharma, says, to settle his mind, right? He's saying, my mind is, conflicted. I need to, if the master can settle my mind for me. And Bodhidharma says, show me your unsettled mind. And Sun Guang, he tried to find this unsettled mind, but he said, no, I can't find it. And so Bodhidharma then said, I have just settled your mind. Okay, so basically, we should kind of like ask ourselves first. We can ask ourselves, reflect within, introspect on things, right? If we want to rationalize, then you can ask yourself, why am I affected and who is being affected? Okay, so basically, just like I was saying in previous classes about, we flip that switch in the mind, okay? In our mind, we can decide basically which path to take, which, do we want to be happy, or do we want to be not happy, right? So these things basically, all right, so basically if we can let go of the I, the ego, or the four images, right? And we let go of the want or the desire, all right? And let go of the to be, which is the three minds, then you have pretty much no attachment. And then, so instead of wanting to be happy, then we are happy. Okay, we can just be happy. Now, okay, this is kind of like a, well, it's probably simpler said than done. Okay, but we have to have this proper mindset. We have to understand the principles, understand the concept behind it. We can be happy if we want to be. Okay, so, well, we always use that want to be, but basically, what I'm saying is in the moment, right now, right? We don't have to say, oh, I want to be, and I'm waiting for some kind of condition or situation to arise that will allow me to be happy. Why? This is basically we're letting ourselves be affected by external, or it could be internal too, but conditions, right? So that is not being. We're not free, right? We're stuck and we're being affected and we're being chained, if you will, by these things. Okay, so just like the song that was playing before the class, it says, don't worry, be happy, right? Just forget about it. There's nothing to be worried about. Just be happy. All right. Anyways, okay. So let's get to relinquishment here. Okay. How to relinquish. All right, so we have to let go of the I, the ego, right? That when we can let go of that, basically the four images. This is actually a slide from last week. Let go of subject-object duality. Let go of comparisons. Let go of prejudices, biases, discrimination, all that. Okay, and we want to be centered. Which means centered on. We say our Buddha nature, our true nature, our genuine self, our true self, okay, our sincere self, and we be in harmony with. So that's being in harmony inside, and then we also be in harmony externally when we're dealing with other people, with people, or anything, or matters or situations. Okay, so but we have to be aware and mindful of the actions of a body, speech, and mind. Okay. So again, these are part of the Noble Eightfold Paths that we talked about last week that address these things. Okay, that the mindfulness. Okay, we have to be aware and mindful, and then we'll be able to just do what's right. Just do the right thing, basically, or do things just right. Okay, whatever we have, we always have an appropriate response to everything, to anything. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So I just mentioned about the I. Okay. Now in English, unfortunately, we use that word. We always just use that word I to refer to the self, and there's no qualification of that. In the temple, we in Chinese, anyways, they use the word 后学, which means direct. The direct translation would be after study or understudy. Okay, but it's not. It's kind of odd to use that instead of I. Okay, so that's why. Unfortunately, we don't use we don't use that. But really, this 后学 really means the humble I. Okay, so it's because again, it's like I'm always learning. I'm learning from whoever, anyone. Okay, so I'm not like the one who's teaching. So even right now, I may be teaching. People who are listening, but I would still be like a 后学, which is the humble. I'm still learning too. Okay, so we're all learning. So that's a humble thing. But unfortunately, in English, I haven't found a word to use for that. Okay. 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 Whoops. Here it is. Okay. So this in the Bible, right, says Luke 9:23-25 says, "Then Jesus said to his disciples, 'If anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.'" Okay, so for whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, will save it. For what profit is it to a man if he gains the whole world and is himself destroyed or lost? Okay, so this is very appropriate here, because to deny oneself is what? Is to, you can say it's relinquishment, to give up all those things. All right, so we're going to be talking about those things to give up. And then to take up the cross, well, you can say that's also to follow their true nature, the Buddha nature. Okay. And right, so he says, what good is it if we can acquire all these things in the world, the material things, but that's useless, right? It's all going to be lost in the end, and we are lost in this, having created karma and continuing in this cycle of life and death. All right, okay, okay, all right. In the classic of Purity and Stillness is the Qing Jing Jing. Okay, so this is one part of it. It says, having false views, the spirit is aroused. When the spirit is aroused, one becomes affected by the material world. When affected by the material world, desires and cravings arise. Okay, desires and cravings give rise to afflictions, and afflictions and false views bring grief to body and mind, and causes impurity and disgrace. Wandering through life and death, constantly sinking into the bitter sea, forever losing the true Tao. Okay, so false views. We talked about that last week again. In the Four Noble Truths, right? The first noble path is making sure that we have the right proper views of the world and everything. So if we have the wrong views about things, then we're gonna that's like the direction. Okay, so having the views that we have is setting a direction for us, and if it's the wrong views, then we're going in the wrong direction. Okay, and then also here it mentions desires and cravings again. They arise from having those wrong views, and so that ultimately leads to suffering. In Buddhist terms, it would be creating karma, and then reincarnation, and the continuous cycle of that. Okay, so now let's see. Yeah, okay. Impure. Right. Okay. So basically, there's no enemy outside our soul. The real enemies live inside us, which are anger, ego, greed, and hate. Okay, so these are some of them. You can say, these are, well, this is not completely the three poisons. Third poison is, you could say, ignorance or attachments. That would be third poison. But anyways, you can say that arises from the ego. Anyways, so yeah. So what we need to correct or overcome is not any external adversary or enemy. It's what's within us. Okay, so it's all in our mind, right? And we have to overcome these things. All right. Okay, so 12. These are 12 relinquishments that our holy teacher Jigong Buddha gave us, or told us, that we should work on these. I mean, there are others too, but these are 12 that the holy teacher gave us, mentioned. So we have confrontation, suspicions, indifference, criticism, bickering, envy, greed, anger, rights and wrongs, disputes, complexity, and this letting go. Okay, so actually, you can say that the first 11, or 11, or I guess the first 10 or 11 basically are deal with the external world. Basically, either deal with people or situations, and the last one is Well, that's within. That's internal. You can say, because we have to. Basically, he's saying that we have to let go of letting go. Okay, but so how do we do that? The Holy Teacher, suggests these things here. Says to instead of doing confrontation, we show love instead. Actually, okay, I'm going to be talking about each one individually, but here it's just the list here. So to deal with suspicions, we have trust. We have trust instead. Instead of having indifference, we should care or have caring. And then instead of criticizing, we should compliment. Instead of bickering, we should be more magnanimous. Okay. Instead of having envy, we should rejoice in others. Okay. Instead of having greed, we should give. Okay. And instead of anger, we should be more gentle. Instead of this is the rights and wrongs, meaning like we stick to a position, take a stand of right or wrong, that kind of thing. We should be a little bit more dispassionate. When we have this, instead of getting into disputes, we should introspect and reflect within. Complexity, right? The complexity of life, basically. We should actually simplify our lives. And finally, that let it go says to be thus. Okay, so that's all right. But we'll get into this. Okay, yeah. Actually, sorry. So before, basically, we don't want the ones on the outside, right? So we want to be on the inside of that circle. Basically, that's kind of. This brings us closer to being centered, mentioned centered, and being in harmony with others, okay, by you can say manifesting or doing the ones inside the circle here, all right? Okay, so yeah, I mean, it may be hard to let go. So basically what, what Holy Teacher is saying is we transform one into the other, okay? Right, okay. So, all right, let's go on here. Okay, so the first one, we want to relinquish confrontation. Okay, so we want to transform confrontation into love. Okay, so confrontation is basically being hostile or argumentative. Let's see, being hostile or argumentative. Okay, then we can get into confrontation. Okay, so that's the definition actually. but it can lead to worse than just an argument. It can lead to a fight, and etc. Okay, but instead of accusing, let's say, usually the confrontation is we we accuse someone of something, okay, and we accuse something of a mistake or wrongdoing. We have to be more understanding and accommodating. Show love and compassion. A lot of times, like on the road, if we encounter a situation, someone cuts us off or whatever, almost causes us to get in an accident. Maybe we get angry and we want to confront that person. But basically, we have to learn to let it go. Okay, basically let it go and say, hey, maybe do we change our way of thinking? It's like rather than react right to that situation, we should respond to it in the appropriate way. And in this case, we can just say, hey, either we don't, it just doesn't bother us at all, we don't think about anything at all, or we say, hey, maybe, they had a good reason for doing that, maybe they're in a hurry, whatever. Okay. But we have to be more understanding and accommodating to show that, to love and compassion towards person rather than getting into a argument and a fight. Okay, so de-escalate, right? That's a word that's you hear a lot today in the news. De-escalate by changing our attitude, the tone of voice, and the bearing, and try to be tactful and forgiving. Okay, so the de-escalation, yeah. Why? So right now we see, in the streets, or for the past month, there's been a lot of confrontation going on, right, between protesters and the police. And unfortunately, that's, it doesn't make sense to me because it's kind of like, you're going against, you're confronting these people who are supposed to be protecting you. And even though there might be a few police who maybe they do things that they shouldn't have done. But this is not really the way that we should go about doing it, and or making ourselves being heard. So so having confrontation like this then could have a lasting effect. I mean, it's hard to say, oh, okay, so after this is over, then how do you think the police are going to kind of treat people? I mean, it's hard. I admit it's going to be hard for them, in that just yesterday, these guys were trying to throwing rocks at us and whatnot, and today I have to go protect them. That makes it really difficult. Okay, so people it's all driven. It's a lot driven by emotions. Okay, so obviously, emotions we need to kind of try to keep under control. Okay, we have to keep them under control. The idea is, again, we try to be harmonious instead of confrontation, and harmonious through love, compassion, right? All that. Okay. Okay. So Buddha says, radiate boundless love towards the entire world, above, below, and across, unhindered, without ill will, without enmity. Okay. So this is compassion, that the love that is not basically. It's unconditional. Okay, that's what compassion is. There's no. It doesn't matter. We just show that even though maybe they did there was a wrongdoing, but we still don't try to get in. We still try to maintain harmony. Right. Relinquish suspicions. Okay, we want to transform suspicions into trust. These are it's kind of like the opposite. Okay, whether if you have suspicions, you have doubts about something, right? But then trust. So Holy Teacher is saying use trust instead, right? So it's thinking. Usually suspicions come about when we think too much or think negatively about things. Then we create suspicions about. We can say it's a false reality. It's something that we made up in our mind about a situation. Maybe someone said something or someone did something, and we think that there was some other intention or some motive behind it, or some hidden agenda. But that's all. Again, that's all in our mind. Okay, we created that. I mean, they didn't from their action or their words. It was very simple, it's straightforward. In their mind, they had no other intention, but we take it the wrong way, and so that's where we have these suspicions. So again, that's really, we're hurting ourselves because we create this false reality based on what we're thinking. And so instead of thinking that someone has a hidden agenda, right, try to accept what they say or do at face value. Okay. It's basically we have to control our mind. I mean, not try to think in ways that normal person would not think, basically. Okay, so trust is the foundation of any good relationship, and it can ease our mind, right? So people who are always suspicious, they're suffering. I mean, they live a miserable life because they're always suspicious. They're always thinking, oh, this person has said this. I think they mean this, or they said they did that, and I think they mean this. They mean me harm, or whatever. So these people, they never have any peace of mind. We really have to get rid of that. That's definitely, we're creating our own suffering. Okay, and so this is something that we can really get rid. We can really get rid of this. Just trust more. Just try to trust people until right, we trust until it's proven that they can't be trusted. Okay, we might encounter situations where we trust people and then they did something and they really did mean something else or whatever. They have some hidden agenda, but that's okay. I think most of the time that won't be the case. Now, also, if we are trusting, people will also trust us, and it works both ways. And kind of like attracts like. If we are more suspicious, we'll kind of have more of these other problems. So it's better to just be trusting. Okay. All right. Okay. Indifference, right? Transform indifference into caring. Right? Indifference basically means having a lack of interest, concern, or sympathy. So basically, indifference towards others shows we have no sympathy or compassion. Instead of either ignoring people's suffering or even not just maybe they're not suffering, but if we ignore them, instead of doing that, we should try to show some caring and concern. I mean this is part of we're social. In society, we should care for each other. Okay, so it shouldn't be very give each other the cold shoulder. Okay, so by caring for others, then others will also care for us, and we also would make people feel more comfortable, right? Feel a little bit of warmth from us. Okay, so there's and then. Now, I guess there's this is not talking. There's you can say there's a different type of indifference, or actually apathy towards, and that would be towards let's say a duty or responsibility. But that's not what this is talking about. This is talking about indifference towards people. Okay, how are we dealing with people? But okay, so one of the things that we should try to improve in the temple is where there are a lot of people whether the people come to the temple or there are actually more people don't come to the temple. Okay, and we need to show that we have this we care whether they come to the temple or not, and so that's something I think that we're we might be deficient in, and we need to try to work on, is to for those who we haven't seen, or maybe even those people who do come to the temple but they don't come all the time. We don't know, maybe something happened to them, maybe they got sick or whatever. If we don't reach out and show that we care, or at least to contact them, find out what's going on, we won't know, and then they'll feel like, well, there's no one cares, right? So that's something that we really need to work on, because I know that the vast majority of the people who receive the Tao, they're not regulars coming to the temple, and so we need to try to reach out to them. Now, of course, if they don't want us to be, they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to have any contact with us, then that's another thing. But I think a lot of people, they don't feel that warmth, okay, and the caring, and like in the temple, it's not like, because we always say it's like, oh, we're all like family, right? That's what Tao kin is, like family, and so. We should do our best to make it feel like everyone is part of family, right? Okay. Okay, and then so criticism, we want to transform criticism into a compliment. Okay, for example, so we can criticize, but it should always be constructive criticism, right? Constructive criticism is basically useful criticism. We don't want to criticize just for the sake of criticizing because, they did a lousy job, and we just say, yeah, that sucks. But if we don't provide any advice or recommendation for to let them improve, then that's we shouldn't say that. Okay, so we don't want to criticize, and also we don't want to criticize in a negative way, right? we want to instead say things, instead of saying it negatively or say bad things, right? Just try to say things in a positive, more encouraging way, and always be tactful. Tactful means try to do it in a roundabout way, not too directly, not try say it in a way that we don't hurt their feelings, make them feel bad, right? So always try to so basically always try to encourage. And so even like children, right? Maybe they did something and the result was lousy, what they did, but you always try to say it in a good way. Say, hey, that's good, that's great. We can do better though. All right. But it's always encouraging. So don't say it come out too direct and negative. Then that can be very discouraging, and that's not good. So we want to by turning the negative into positive, we foster encouragement. We want to encourage them, and because sometimes maybe they're doing it because they're forced to do it. Okay, they don't really want to do it. Let's say they perform a task or something, carry out something, do something. And so we definitely want to be as encouraging as possible, so that they don't say, hey, you made me do this, so I don't want to do it again. I don't want to be, don't tell me to do this, to do this again. So we don't want that. So always try to be positive and encouraging, so that they'll try again, and they can therefore improve themselves, right? Okay. Okay, so Buddha says, speak only endearing speech that is welcomed. Speech, when it brings no evil to others, is a pleasant thing, right? So, again, how we say things is very important. Even though, we want to try to correct someone's wrong or point out someone's wrong or mistake, we say it in a nice, in a way that's helpful, really helpful, okay? All right. Next is relinquish bickering. Okay, bickering, and we're going to transform that into magnanimity. Okay, bickering is really kind of like arguing over little things. Okay, or haggling over minor or petty matters. Very little things, and so you'd be surprised at how many little arguments we get into over just the smallest little minor insignificant things, basically. Like toothpaste. It's like how we squeeze the toothpaste. Maybe the other household member squeezes it a different way, and it's very annoying, right? Or whether you leave the toilet seat up or down, right? There's people get into arguments over these things, but this is just so minor. There's no need to bicker over these things. So don't become annoyed or petty over these petty details, right? Just let it go and do not let it bother us, right? And so magnanimity, being magnanimous, is being more generous, more forgiving. Okay, so we have to be more tolerating and forgiving, and then we will have more peace of mind as well. It's like, who likes to be arguing and all the time and getting into fights? That's no one. It's a lose-lose situation. Both sides are unhappy. Okay, so we can we can just let it go. If we can just let it go, then everyone can be happy, right? All right. Next one, relinquish envy. Okay, envy, some people use jealousy, but actually there is a difference in those two meanings. But, okay, so we want to transform envy into rejoicing for others. Okay, so envy really means discontented or resentful longing for what others may have, right? So it's basically, it's like, hey, this this person has something that I want, they have it, I don't have it, and I am, I'm kind of like not angry, but I may have some ill will towards that person. I hate that person because they have it and I don't have it, So that's kind of this envy Or it could be a little bit milder. I mean, you don't have to hate the person, but it's like, oh, they have something that I want. It's like I always want something that someone else has. Okay, but so instead of doing that, and then I'll mention jealousy because some people use the word jealous. Envy usually refers to between two people. Okay, so the other person has something, or they have some quality or whatever it is that I want. Now, jealousy usually involves three people, where there's two of them have some relationship that this other third person is jealous of, that they have a relationship. Okay, so that's jealousy. You can, in that sense, is a bit more narrow. Okay, so but anyways, so instead of longing for someone's wealth, good looks, etc., hey, compliment them, right? Rejoice. What rejoice means is to be happy for the other person. All right, so then if we can rejoice in their good fortune, then everyone can be happy, right? So they're happy that they have this, and we're happy for them that they have it. Then it's good. It's win-win for everyone, right? So that's, rather than being envious, then they're happy and we're suffering. So again, this is self-caused suffering. Okay, and now of course the envy, you can say, comes from our desire for something that we don't have that they have, right? So again, it goes back to the desire and attachments, right? So again, envy, turn that into rejoicing. Hey, they deserve, basically, if we understand that, everything is karma, right? Everything is the result of karma, and so what they have, they deserved it. That's their karma. What I don't have it, that's my, I didn't deserve getting that, and so that's my karma. So it's you just gotta have to let it go, right? Okay. Greed, relinquish greed. Okay, so we want to transform greed into giving. So giving is kind of the opposite of greed. Greed is wanting for myself, selfish, right? So it's because we have these selfish desires and we want more. So Holy Teacher says, we got to give to kind of, instead of doing that. So that's kind of the opposite. Instead of wanting and acquiring things for oneself, try giving to and sharing with others. By giving, we overcome the poison of greed, right? So that's one of the three poisons, greed, and gain a sense of satisfaction and joy. And I think it's true that basically when we can give, there is a sense of satisfaction in doing that. Okay, and we have this sense of joy in giving. So people who don't give, they don't know that. Okay, so who never give, but so we have to learn to give. Giving also is, right, it's the first of the 6 paramitas, right? Charity, or giving. And so that's one of the practices that we must do. We can give in any number of ways, right? It's not like we have to necessarily give up our wealth, give up all lots of stuff. But, in today's society, right, of course, we're also, there are also lots of various, causes, right, by these nonprofit organizations that are trying to push certain causes. If we are aligned with those causes, we agree to those causes, we can certainly donate to those, right? That's giving. Or we can give to our neighbor. We can give help, right? Whenever, let's say, our neighbors or our friends or relatives, they need some help in something that we can help them with, and we can do it. Or even just with strangers, just even smiling or just greeting them, saying some good words. That's also giving. And who knows, and especially if we maybe we smile, we say some good words, encouraging words. Maybe that's what they needed to hear. It could just make their day, and so why not? This is free giving. Okay, this is not. We don't have to give up anything, and so they feel good and we feel good. Okay, so that's that it's again a win-win for everyone. Okay, so and let's see, and then so this giving, so Buddha says, give even if you only have a little. So sometimes we feel, I can't afford to give anything. But again, giving doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give, let's say money or whatever. Okay, there are different ways of giving. So the more important thing is the quality of the giving, if you will, the quality of the giving, not necessarily the quality of what you're giving, but the quality of the giving. Okay. So you can say maybe the moral quality or how sincere it is. It's coming from the heart. We have to give from the heart. Okay, so that is really what the most important thing is. The giving. Yeah, I mean, you hear the story of these people. They were making donations to Buddha and his sangha, and they're bringing all sorts of stuff. But then this old lady didn't have anything. Only gave basically her hair, to make like the wick of a lamp, and so so basically the story goes that so they lit all the lamps because the other people they all offered lamps as well, and including this lady's lamp, which she used her hair to as the wick, and then I guess at one point the wind rose and it blew out all the lamps except for hers. Okay, so basically, what the story is saying is that it's the quality. She gave basically the only thing that she could give. Okay, and so that's the quality, and it wasn't very much. Okay, but that is what counts the most, right? So don't think that, they want me to make a donation, whatever. Hey, even $1, if that's all you have. Hey, if it comes from the heart, that means more than, some other quantity, okay? Okay, so now we're getting into anger here, okay? So holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die, okay? So this is, I don't know if Buddha really said this, but this is kind of funny, but it's true. It's this anger really only hurts I mean, it can hurt the other person, but it's really we're hurting ourselves. Okay, so we want to transform anger into gentleness. Okay, being gentle. So don't get angry over everything or anything. It can lead to. So anger can lead to other things like confrontation and disputes and other, some of these other things that we're supposed to relinquish. All right, so we have to be careful with anger, and that's why anger is one of the 3 poisons as well. So instead of getting angry and shouting, right, try to stay calm and be gentle when dealing with someone or situation. Okay, so. By being gentle, we overcome the poison of anger, and we'll be better able to resolve matters. Yeah, So in the 6 paramitas, there's the 5th one, which is concentration. That practice is used to overcome anger. Okay, all right. So instead of just being angry and reacting and exploding, explain your anger. Don't express it, and you will immediately open the door to solutions instead of arguments. Right. So don't just fly into a rage. We need to explain. So try to rationalize through use reasoning instead to get through a situation instead of getting angry. Okay, so that will definitely because that would be more harmonious. When we get angry, there's disharmony. There's no harmony there, and people are not likely to want to listen to us or agree with us. They want to get away from us. So then there's no way to resolve anything. All right. Okay, and then rights and wrongs. This is also an area where we tend to fall into. We say, "Oh yeah, I was right, man, and you're wrong. I'm right." We fall into this trap. This is the duality trap. Okay, so transform that into a dispassionate view. Dispassionate means, let's say, don't basically you don't get emotional, or there's not much. We don't not get too emotional over it, and then so we don't want to take a passionate stand on either side. All right, so because when we take a stand on one side or the other, then it's easy for someone to accuse us of being biased. Okay, so instead of taking sides, try to eliminate the emotions so as to be impartial and rational. Again, okay, so calm first, right? Take the emotion out of it. Then so we can try to be as impartial and unbiased, right? And we can reason through anything. Okay, so try to resolve it through reason. Sometimes it can't. I mean, because but so actually, what's more important is not taking a stand on right or wrong necessarily, right? What may be more important is really try to be in harmony, and so okay, so maybe I'm right and the other person was wrong, but so what? Unless it's a big deal, we can just let it go and maintain harmony instead, right? Instead of getting into, because then this can again get into confrontation, right? And or worse. Okay, so by being dispassionate, we will be better able to resolve disputes harmoniously, right? So that's the idea. Remember, we always try to be centered and harmonious. Okay, and so if we can be impartial, right, and rational, then people will basically be able to more willingly accept whatever advice or recommendations that we may give. Okay, all right. Okay, so those who cling to perceptions and views wander the world offending people, right? So those who have strong views, they stuck on their views, and they promote their views, and they disagree with others who don't share those views. Then you have problems. So that's unfortunately that's what's happening in this country today. Okay, so unfortunately, when you have the leader who's like that. He's offending people left and right. Okay, but anyways, okay, so transform disputes into introspection. Okay, so instead of disputing something, dispute is like it could be a disagreement, an argument, or debate. Okay, so in this case, maybe it's a disagreement, and so we want to introspect rather than argue with someone. Hey, it should be like this, or so always reflect within. Maybe our view is not necessarily the right view. Okay, so again, this is kind of related to so some of these relinquishments, some of these relate to the other ones. Okay, so this could relate to something that we're disputing something that's right or wrong, or it could be something else, but. Okay, but don't reflexively, get into some disagreement or argument. Instead of clinging to our views and arguing, try to reflect inward and introspect on the matter, and try to, and even though maybe we can't see, see it from their point of view, we don't understand why they can have the other view. Communicate, right? We can try to communicate and try to understand their view. That goes a long way towards resolving matters. Is to understand. I think a lot of times where there's conflict or confrontation or disputes is because there's not enough communication both ways. That we don't understand, and understanding, okay, of each side. Okay, so by introspecting, we can avoid disputes and improve ourselves as well. In the case that, well, again, this goes back to the other ones where say maybe it's no big deal. It's we'll just let it go. All right. Okay. Next, complexity. All right. So. Transfer complexity into simplification, or we want to simplify. This you can say, I mean, it applies to our lives, or it can apply to things that we do, how we do it, right? There can be complicated ways of doing something or very simple ways of doing something. Usually, this is not dealing with people, but so don't make everything so complicated and difficult. That's, it's kind of odd, but we tend to do that, though. We tend to do that. And what's interesting is that, that today, especially today, okay, we have all sorts of stuff. We have all sorts of tools. We have all technology. They're supposedly there to help us, right? Make life better. Well, better. What does that mean? But sometimes it just makes our lives more complicated. Okay, so instead of adding complexity to our lives and what we do, try to keep things as simple as possible, of course, because the more complexity there is, the more things can go wrong. Plus, it can cause lots of anxiety or vexation in our mind as well. And by simplifying our lives, and how we do things, we can avoid problems too. Okay, so don't make things, right? There's the KISS principle, right? Keep it as simple. Oh, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so basically, keep it as simple as possible. Is the motto there. So yeah, it's weird that it seems like we use this technology. We have these cell phones and all sorts of gadgets that can be useful, but then it also can complicate our lives as well. So maybe we don't really need all these things. All right. Okay. Okay. So the last one, right? Relinquish, letting go. What it's saying is really letting. We don't. Okay, so it says transform, letting go into being thus, okay, which is, and the term is tathata, okay, so okay, so do not cling or be attached to the thought of letting go. So letting go, right, we relinquish or let go of all those other things, and then this one is letting go of letting go. So basically it's, maybe we have to initially tell us, we think in our mind, say, oh, I have to let this go. Okay, I have to let go of anger. I have to let go of disputes. I have to let go of all these things. But then, let's say we're able to let go of these things, or maybe even before that, we should also try, well, usually this is the last one. Okay, so this is kind of like the last. The others, if we can let go of all the other ones, and then there's nothing else to let go, then this is the thing that we have to let go, is this. Okay, so the thought that we have to let something go. Okay, so instead of consciously thinking of letting go, let it become natural and thus. Okay, so you can say it becomes second nature. It's just natural. It's no longer, we don't have to think about letting go anymore. It's just very natural. So if we can let go of all those other things, then I think it would become natural for us to naturally just to be able to let go without thinking or become attached to this idea of letting go. It just comes naturally. Okay, so by being thus, we are truly free and unattached. Okay, that's what this thusness is. This is you can say this is like the mother of all letting goes, right? Just letting go of this final attachment. Okay, so actually, so the idea is basically what we want to let go of is the dharmas. Let me see here. Okay, any kind of dharma, like a teaching or even like methods, we need to let those go. Okay, so here you can say this is a dharma. Okay, the dharma of saying these 12 relinquishments, but in the end we have to let that go as well. All right, even in the case of let's say, let me see here. Okay, let me go to the next slide actually. Okay, so letting go of all dharmas. Okay, so here there's the story of besides, so obviously the 12 relinquishments that Holy Teacher talked about, that's not all of it, right? We have to let go of the ego, we have to let go of the self and all that. If we can let go of the ego and the self, but we still cling to any kind of dharma, then we are at the level of an arhat. Okay, so we're not at the level of Buddha or Bodhisattva, right? So again, the dharmas we have to let go. So when Buddha himself, he's meditating under the Bodhi tree, and he's awakened, right? He enlightened, but the problem is he still had an attachment in his mind to the thought of nirvana, that he say, I've attained nirvana. Okay, so that he still has this attachment to that, and because of that, he wasn't truly enlightened yet. Okay, until he got rid of that attachment, then Dipankara Buddha then finally certified him as being, yes, he's achieved Buddhahood. Okay, so that was Buddha's final attachment, is that to the attachment of the idea of nirvana. Okay, so it's a similar thing. Now here's an analogy. Okay, so crossing a lake in a boat. Okay, so the boat is the means, the method, or in this case we're talking about dharma, for us to get across the lake, right? So when we use this boat, so we're using this dharma to help us get across the lake to the other shore. Once we get to the other shore, what are we going to do? Are we going to, and we're going to continue our journey. Okay, so maybe the other shore isn't even if it's, okay, so if it's the final destination, of course we don't need the boat, right? But let's say it may not be the final destination, or even if it is, okay, but if we still hold on to the boat, then that doesn't make sense, right? But let's say that we're going to continue on, and do we want to continue? Do we want to then carry the boat with us? Okay, but doing this is basically it becomes a burden, right? I mean, we have to then carry this. It's like extra baggage, right? So we're carrying this boat, and maybe it will be useful, right? Let's say we come across another body of water that we want to cross, but do we really need to carry this boat? No, not really. So we should let it go when we cross this lake and we continue on. Basically, because it's going to become an obstacle for us and a burden. Okay, so it's the same thing with dharmas. When let's say we learn, like people, they like to learn some like meditation, some method of practice, qigong, whatever. Okay, then they think that's the ultimate, right? So they don't let that go. Once they, let's say, through their practice, they achieve emptiness. Well, but they still stuck on that. Okay, they still have that attachment, and that will prevent them from getting to a higher level. So basically, what's ideal is that if we are successful in letting go of all these other things, then in letting go of this dharma, well, because we are thus, right? We are thus. Then the next time we encounter a lake that we need to cross, we'll have a boat. Okay, the boat will appear. Okay, a boat will appear for us to get across that lake, and we won't need to bring that boat with us. Why? Because actually that boat, that dharma, is already within us. Okay, so what we want to take, see, dharma is actually external, and we want to internalize it. Once we've internalized that Dharma, we don't need the external Dharma anymore. It's already within us. Okay, so we know how to cross the lake. Okay, anytime we come across the lake, we know how to cross the lake. We don't need to bring some external boat with us. Okay, so basically that's basically saying that, you know, when we learn the principles, we learn these principles, that we can't just treat it as knowledge. You know, that's still kind of external. And so, because we can forget, let's say we forget it, okay? We can, it's, you know, unless we commit it to memory, we can forget it too. And so it has to be internalized. Internalized meaning it becomes a part of you, okay? It becomes a part of us. And so we know it basically inside out. We live it. You know, when we live it, then there's no need to remind ourselves of this particular Dharma, right? So it'll just come out naturally when we need it, right? When we need to use it, it's just naturally, it comes about. We'll know how to use it. So that's the ultimate, the level that we want to achieve, okay? Okay, so we have to let go of all the dharmas, right? Okay, because basically, you know, the ultimate, if we want to achieve, just like Buddha, you know, achieve nirvana, as long as we're attached to some dharmas, then we cannot achieve nirvana. Okay, so they're just going to hold us back. So we have to let go of everything. All right. Okay, so as a water bead on the lotus leaf, as water on a red lily, all right, does not adhere, doesn't stick to it. So the sage does not adhere to what is seen, what is heard, and what is sensed. Okay, so basically no attachment to anything. Okay, that's what the Buddha said. All right, and then so I'll add a couple of things that you know, other things that we need to relinquish too, our habits and laziness. So this is kind of also an internal thing. Basically, you know, using the fourth. Let's see, is it the fourth? I think the fourth of the paramitas, 6 paramitas. It says diligence, right? Addresses this, or proper effort in the Noble Eightfold Path, right? And then, so we need to make the effort to transform knowledge into action. And, you know, the habits and laziness, we have to, these are, you know, things that you could say it's well, one of the 7 sins, right, in the Bible is sloth, which is basically laziness. So that you can say it's a sin to be lazy. So we need to overcome that, right? Yeah. All right. And then, okay. So the other ones, you know, there's no fear for one whose mind is not filled with desires, right? So desires is a thing that we need to get rid of, right? If we have no desires, then we have nothing to fear, really. We won't create karma. Okay, so we won't create suffering. All right, so I'll mention one desire that we really need to work on, which is the desire of the taste. Okay, so we have to stop killing sentient beings for our taste. Right? Buddha says, all tremble at violence, all fear death. Right? Putting oneself in the place of another, right? One should not kill, nor cause another to kill. Right? So that says it, you know, pretty directly that we have to, and you know, not killing is the first precept, first of the 5 precepts. So definitely, you know, don't think that because we didn't kill directly, right? We just bought the food, right, from the market. You know, there's indirect killing, right? It says, right, one should not kill nor cause another to kill. So by buying that meat, we're basically causing someone else to kill for us. Okay, so this is something that we should definitely consider, and we definitely encourage becoming, you know, vegan or vegetarian, plant-based diet. Don't kill, because animals, they're all sentient beings. Okay, so they're all sentient beings. So if we have any compassion at all, you know, how can you look in the eyes of an animal and kill it and eat it? I don't think. Yeah, I mean, if we had to do that, you know, for you know, like the chickens or whatever it is that we're eating, you know, we always had to do that. I think we would stop eating them pretty quickly. Okay, so so that's something that you should think about, right? All right, so relinquishing all attachments. Whatever is not yours, let go of it. Your letting go of it will be for your long-term happiness and benefit. Okay, so that's what Buddha says. Anything that doesn't belong to us, we should let go of. So all our habits, our temperament, these wrong views. Okay, these are all. We didn't have these initially, originally. Okay, these are things that we kind of acquired in this world, and so we need to try to let go of all of these things. If we cannot let go, if we have any kind of attachments to any of this stuff, especially also I mean, I think it's easier to let go of things of form, the material stuff. Sometimes. It's easier to let go of those things than to let go of the things that are in our mind. Okay, then it becomes difficult. It's very difficult to transcend this cycle of life and death because this attachment is a force that it's like gravity that pulls us down, pulls us into this world. Okay, all right. So okay, and then this idea of of self, right? So see them floundering in their sense of mine, right? Mine, like fish in the puddles of dried up stream, and seeing this, live with no mind, not forming attachment for states of becoming. Okay, so ultimately, maybe the biggest attachment would be the attachment to self, right? Attachment to this life, right? Attachment to my personality. Right, these are all the four images, right? So these are, and we know that the four images are all false, it's an illusion, right? Created through the five skandhas, right? We all talked about this all last week, and so these are, it's all an illusion. Everything's an illusion. Our life, our being is all an illusion, and we think that we're real, and so we have to break out of that. The Buddhists say, basically, we're like in a dream. We're living in a dream, and so this is not real, and we have to wake up from that dream. So that's why, we say awaken, the awakening, right? Is basically, we sometimes use awakening instead of enlightenment as basically meaning the same thing. Okay, so it's really understanding what the truth is and realizing it. And trying to change our way of thinking about things to be in conformity with the truth. Okay, so all right, let's see. Okay, so what Holy Teacher says, observe heaven and earth are selfless, covering all things, thus they are great. Right, reducing one's selfishness increases one's selflessness. Right, reducing one's desires gives one heaven's truths. The greater the pursuits for oneself, the less able to achieve one's goals. Okay, so that's being selfish, basically. So only with a heart that is impartial and selfless, bright and upright, can one prevent selfishness and selfish desires. Right, a sage says, all for one and one for all. Right. Only for the good of all can we achieve the ideal. By ridding the self for the sake of all, we can manifest the collective expansive heart. Right? If everything comes from the self, then what we achieve is only for the self. Right? So we look at heaven and earth, right? They are very selfless. I mean, humans are very, that mine that we were just talking about, the mine, everything, this is mine. That's yours, this is mine, right? But heaven and earth, they don't say that, right? I mean, look at the earth. Humans are exploiting the earth, exploiting the resources, doing whatever they want on the earth, damaging it, and the earth is not saying, hey, stop. Well, we see what we see is, basically karma happening here. Like whether it's a pandemic or we have calamities, disasters, things that happen. I think that's basically a result of the consequence of what we're doing here. But but really the earth is selfless. I mean, we can dig up all the ore, dig up whatever the resources from the earth, and they don't complain. But yeah, humans, well, it's like people say, that's mine. You can't use that without my permission. It's sad. Unfortunately, that's what society has become. If you look at the ancient societies, ancient peoples, ancient cultures, they had no, from what I know, the ancient, basically the Native Americans, right, American Indians, and going way back, maybe they had no concept of possession, of owning things. Okay, it's everything was from the earth, it's of the earth, and they just use whatever they need. That's it. But they don't own anything. But today, it's like everyone's owns intellectual property or whatever property. I mean, this is, so everyone gets very possessive. So that's no good. So that's selfishness. That's selfishness. Okay, but if we can reduce our desires, then we can gain, heaven's truth. We can understand the truth more. Let's see, the all for one for all. Actually, ultimately, see why Buddhas always are very merciful and they want to help the sentient beings become enlightened is because they are one with all. Okay, so they are. There is no, because in their, well, I can't say their mind. I mean, in that mind, in the mind of a Buddha, they are sentient beings. The sentient beings, there's no separation. There's no distinction between them, the Buddha, and sentient beings. So that's why they are willing to do that to help for either sacrifice or do whatever to help others. And so so basically, the more that we can get rid of this idea of the self, then the more we can become more like that, like the Buddhas. Okay. So there's another section from the Classics of Purity and Stillness, right? If one constantly expels desires, the mind will naturally become still, right? If one constantly clears the mind, the spirit will naturally become pure. Naturally, the 6 desires will not arise, right? The 6 desires are the desires from the senses, okay? And then the 3 poisons will also vanish, okay? And then, so the reason for inability to do the above is the mind is not yet clear and desires are not yet expelled. So this is, again, so basically just pointing out that, all the scriptures, the sutras, whether it's in the Bible or it's, what the Taoist, the Lao Tzu is saying, they're all saying the same things. Okay, so we have to get rid of these desires to basically transcend this suffering. Okay. All right. So conclusion. Basically, relinquishment is the way to becoming thus. Right. Let go of all that is not of the true essence, our true self. Basically, anything that's not part of the Buddha nature, we have to let go of, right? Because those are, it's like our ego and any kind of dharmas that we may have, okay, that we may acquire. We have to let go of those, all right? And then, so of course, the 12 relinquishments and all the other things that relinquishments that that help us, those are all dharmas, but they will help us to try to achieve that centeredness, right? Becoming centered and harmonious. Okay, but ultimately we have to let go of that letting go, right? So when we are without attachments, we are thus and can live a life of suchness. Okay, so that's actually that last one, that last of the 12 relinquishments. That's what it says. But yeah, but basically all attachments we have to get rid of, and then we can just be thus. It's just basically it's like the Buddha. The Buddha is thus, and they can come and go as they please. They are free. They are liberated. So if we have no attachments, then yeah, we be the same thing. Being thus, our mind can be still and our spirit can be pure. Okay, so that's what we want to achieve. And some more of Holy Teacher's words. Wishing disciples' true nature can be as bright as the sun because we do not conduct ourselves well. We have faults, bad temper, selfishness, and craving for material things. Our bright nature is obscured. As such, we constantly make mistakes, right? So again, that Buddha nature within us is very bright like the sun, and we need to. Unfortunately, it's covered up by this other stuff, okay, that we have to try to get rid of. And so let go of one's attachments and vexations. Right? In the end, one must let go of the physical self. Okay, so this, and only in this way can we truly transcend. Right? So we have an attachment to this body that we don't want to die. We are afraid. Then it's very hard. That's again, like I said, this attachment is this force that pulls us to this world. And especially if we have an attachment to something that is of this world, this material world, namely this body, then we're going to, that is the cause basically for the next rebirth. Okay, so, all right. Okay, so this is a song that by Holy Teacher, right? So it says, modesty is the manner of cultivation. How can there be wanton outbursts of anger? Right, calm, clear heart does a cultivator maintain. In a turbulent world, be one's own master. Okay, so don't be influenced, don't be affected by the outside, what's going on, the conditions. Okay, don't let our mind be perturbed by what's going on. Let the true self, the Buddha nature, be the master. Okay, so heed this exhortation. Grab a hold of this heart, that true heart. Do not let it be tainted by this world. Okay, don't let it be defiled. Take your steps carefully. Walk the good path. Beware. All right, don't be tempted, and make sure we going in the right direction. Abiding in the truth is so clear. Happiness certainly comes from joyful giving. Right. Be determined to leave the bitter sea with aspiration to remove all binding attachments. The kind people give greater consideration. So we have to show kindness, mercy, compassion, consideration for others, awaken everybody with our marvelous wisdom, right? So that is really also our duty and responsibility. Once we know the truth, we should try to, let others know the truth as well. Though there may be faults, never give up. Work hard to let the true nature shine like the sun. Okay, so we this is a process. We're cultivating. We're trying to get rid of these things that are basically we shouldn't have, and when we're doing that, we get brighter and brighter like the sun. Okay, all right. So finally, just again, may the Tao be with you, and I hope that everyone can learn to relinquish those things, the 12 relinquishments, and other, just being able to let go, gradually let go. And hopefully we can all achieve Buddhahood. All right. So if I had said anything wrong or not satisfactorily, I ask the Buddhas and Saints for forgiveness, and also corrections by the transmitting masters and lecturers. Thank you.